We are
Oh, it's
on.
10:02. 10:02 here.
I will take it away in just a moment. I was just about to change my name here.
Are you going to go incognito?
Rename. There it is. No, there we go.
Dan, don't forget to ask Yolanda for that file.
He's aware of it. Yeah.
Yep.
It's safe. That's the main thing, right?
My keyboard's not working. You'll just have to know I'm in the U.S. All right.
We know where you are.
I like to identify.
We know where you live.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Damn Caesar.net. Cedar.net rather.
There's Joe.
There's Joe. Yes.
Yeah.
And Simon, as I was trying to say real briefly, that my email problem isn't because of PCs, because I use a Mac, but I upgraded an old Mac to a newer operating system, and I'll get there eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And Hannah and Lars also. Hannah and Lars.
Yes, we are here too.
So happy Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, people. We started recording a few seconds ago, but we're making it official at this point. And it is 3 minutes after the hour. The talk today. First of all, our presenter is somebody that's been calling for around 55 years. I've known him for 83 years. We'll just leave it at that. And it's not my twin brother, but the talk I'm going to do today is something that, well, it's about doll or checker moving shortcuts. I think we all use, instead of doing head square through, instead of walking everybody through, we just sort of do a quarter out for them. And at one point I found I was doing lots and lots of these when I was writing choreo for Choreo Breakdown and checking the sequences before computers. And I was at doing a presentation someplace, and they gave me an hour to do something, and I ran out of material well before the hour was up. So I said, well, you guys might be interested in this. And I pulled out my list and started showing shortcuts. And to my amazement, people were extremely interested in them. So I made a neater handout of these and have given the presentation a few times already. So hopefully you guys will be entertained by this also. I was going to make one other quick comment, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, yeah, I know. I'm just curious. I use the term dolls for physical features, physical things to move around. Some people use the term checkers. Let's show a show of hands for dolls and a show of hands for checkers. Oh, good. I'm in the minority again.
I'm old school because my figures are the old little dolls that they had on the magnets.
Mm-hmm. I've made a lot. I have a few commercial types people have given me, and I've made a lot of different ones. The ones I was planning to use today turned out to work on the camera once before, but it's not working. They're too big for today, so I'm going to use another set. I prefer certain things about them, of making them myself. But anyway, without further ado, discovered that when I'm using my iPhone as a second camera, and what's their name? Zoom allows me to use two cameras. So let's see how I can do this. I guess I want to put this one on this screen. Move the messages off to the side, the chat rather. Expand you guys so I can see you. Now, the question, are you seeing my My checkers or just me? You are. Thank you, Helen.
Yes.
Yep, we got the checkers.
And re-aim them again. So just a word of warning or what have you. This is not an arrow. Think of these as arms. This is the way I choose to have my dolls. Lately, I've been doing the males as squares because it's not quite as confusing, but these guys are too big. And also, you know, I think J. King started this because he thought of them as half a square and half a circle because it was easier and faster for him to write. And I thought of them, I came up independently with this because I think of them as arms. And further, when I create dolls, I make it so that when they're holding hands like this, they're a normal couple. And when they're not holding hands, they're half sashayed. It just helps to see it more quickly because I can't always recognize that. And on the back side, there's nothing. On the back side of these new ones, there's nothing. There's something because these are used for mental image. But we're digressing, as I've been known to do. So a lot of people say that it's really good to move people like on a head square through all the different movements of it. And I don't know how to do that. That's pretty rough. But so I have this. Oh, by the way, there's no need to take notes if you want to get the handout that I will be, or maybe 2 handouts that I will be sending to Dan and he will be making available to people. But I think as we know, square through, you can just do a quarter out. And pretty simple thing, everybody knows that. Square through, I got to remember that I'm doing this and you can't see what's going on. Square through 3/4 is basically the couple's turn around. Or California twirl or partner trade. By the way, one of the things I like about these dolls is that they're square and I can grab them in lines or what, and they're fairly thick, so I can grab them in lines and stuff like that. It makes it easier moving around and easier aligning them. And when I'm in waves, you actually can see a wave kind of thing here, which is why I like using arms. So the first few are going to be pretty obvious. The next few, and after that, we'll get to some that still amaze me. And not only is it a good way to move dolls around, but it really gives you a better feel for what's going on in the choreography. We all know ladies chain. We don't have to do the courtesy turn. We just exchange the ladies. I'll bring them back. We probably all know that flutter wheel, we don't have to go through the full motions. It's just exchanging the men. So a flutter wheel just exchanges the men. Big deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but it's still handy to know, and it's not probably surprising to too many of you. Reverse flutter wheel just exchanges the women, just like a lady's chain. Let's get us into head square through, touch a quarter. So a scoot back for these guys is basically just a trade. And I think the way I have it explained is thinking of a wave, ends and adjacent centers trade. But that's if you've got a wave. Looking at these things I was reading last night, it's not a big deal. So again, scoot back is basically a trade. Square your set. These dolls need help every time, not as easy as terminations. And the reason I'm not doing it, the dance floor again. The reason I'm not doing this on Taminations is because Taminations doesn't do the shortcuts. Trying to read my own, I can read the writing. Lead to the right and circle to a line. I'm saying slide right and unbend the line. I guess these and just unbend the line. That's not what I was thinking. I figured that out last night. I don't use all these, but I find they're fascinating. Let me see if I can. Slide right and unbend the line. I guess that's what we're doing. That's circle to a line. Lead right and circle to a line anyway. Pretty obvious. Make partner lines. Page 2. Chain down the line. Let's go here. Let's lead right, veer left. Chain down the line is basically centers trade and bend the line. You don't have to do the courtesy turn. Centers trade, bend the line. Here's one that might not be as obvious to all of you. Let's unsweep a quarter and step to waves. But I find very convenient with dolls. Is recycle. Recycle is ends cross fold and centers step back to make couples. Ends cross fold, whoops, cross fold, and push them into facing couples. Ends cross fold and push them into facing couples. That's a recycle and saves a lot of time. And basically what you'll note, with right hand waves, yeah, is the women don't move. They just step back. They stay where they are. Ends cross fold, step to wave. The women don't move. Ends cross fold and push them back. This is one that I started using pretty early and saves me a lot of time. And I think is a little insightful that some people don't see. On a swing through from facing couples, veer to the right and the ends turn back. Veer to the right and the ends turn back. It's a lot easier than step to a wave, trade, trade. It also gives you a feel, I'm going to undo it. It also gives you a feel that this couple basically moves over. Come on, guy. Basically moves over here. But the ends turn back. That's a swing through. That's one that I use a lot. If I use my dolls a lot. Spin chain through. This is gives you a feel for what spin chain through does. Let's square our sets again so we might be able to see where people are. Come on, guys, you can do this. By the way, I've been thinking, I don't know how long this is going to take.
Can you put the heads up a couple of, like a centimeter?
Thank you.
Ah, there we go. Thank you.
That's on my second screen and I forget to look sometimes. Yeah, remind me if it goes off screen. I'm not sure how much discussion we're going to have about this after, but if you see something that you have a question or an additional comment on when I do these, please interrupt. Or if I go off the dance screen again. We're going to do a spin chain through. And it's interesting to see what that does. If we do a head square through and step to a wave, still on the dance floor. A spin chain through is basically take the end that's facing in and exchange them. And then swing through. Out of a wave, veer to the right, ends turn back. That's what a spin chain through is. So it exchanges one person from each wave to the other, and then does a swing through kind of thing. Square your set. This one's probably kind of obvious, but let's take a look at it anyway. I did a star through, double pass through, centers in. Instead of working my way through a cast off, whoops, we're getting off the dance floor here again. Instead of working my way through a cast off 3/4, it's just a cast back 1/4. A lot easier to do. Or it's a bend the line if you want to think of it that way. But cast backwards 1/4. And I'll tell you why we're thinking of that. So cast off 3/4 is basically cast backwards 1/4. Let's go back. Head square through, step to a wave. If I have waves here, wavy lines. If I do a cast off 3/4 from here, it's basically a cast backwards 1/4. Same thing. Easier to remember that way. I have these broken down into mainstream or plus and mainstream, and then, basic and plus. Try again, Beck. Basic and mainstream all mixed together under the category of mainstream. Then plus, then one A1 call and a couple of A2 calls. But let's jump ahead to one plus call because I need that for this mainstream call. I'm going to have these guys step to a wave. On the call, fan the top, and it used to be in the mainstream category. That's pretty simple. You just do that. Ends move up 1/4, centers cast 3/4, or cast backwards 1/4. So fan the top is a pretty easy one to do. So the call spin the top, I have it written down as scoot back, but basically ends and centers trade, and then fan the top. Let's go back. Back. So spin the top from a wave. Scoot back if necessary, but ends and adjacent centers trade, and moving in the same direction, just fan the top. Turn the whole thing. Pretty easy to do. It's a lot easier than casting these 3/4 one way and what have you. Any comments, questions so far? You're still here. That's interesting. Let's back on the floor here. So if I'm in, happen to be partner lines, if I'm going to do a pass through and wheel and deal, it's not that hard to do, but it's easier to do with just, let's see, yeah, just slide them together, putting the right hand couple in lead. And a 180 if you're worried about geometric equivalent, but not have to. Let's go back, and there's even an easier way. Assume a left-handed two-phase line and veer left. Whoops. Yeah, that's right. Assume a left-handed two-phase line. In other words, assume this and veer left, and then bring these guys back. You look confused, Helen. whoops, partner lines. Instead of doing a pass-through wheel and deal, I'm just going to do a slide them together with the right couple in front.
And this works because you're not worried about the geometric.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just checking out the choreography.
Okay. But then if you continue with the next call and the next call, they'll be half off when they're home. Is that right?
If you're worried about getting them home, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of these, all I'm worried about is the real corner. I don't care how much promenade is in there. But it just shows where people move relative to each other.
Okay.
Let's go home. Pair off. Excuse me, square through. And let's slide through. I want to start with corner lines here. Not that I have to, but basically I'm going to do Dixie style to a wave. It's from facing couples. But Dixie style to a wave is sweep a quarter to the right and step to a left-handed wave. I see some thinking going on. That's good. Sweep a quarter to your right and step to a left-handed wave. It's a lot easier than moving from here to there and swish and swat. And it helps me mentally see what's going on. If I'm doing mental image, I just know that I'm following this guy here and he goes to here. Sweep a quarter to your right and step to a left-handed wave. I'm trying to square your set here, but that's not working very well. See if I move the camera further, then we'd take 20 minutes to try to straighten it out again. This is one that I kind of like because let's do a head square through, swing through, veer right again, U-turn back, and centers run. Typical two-face lines. So this is couples circulate. Assume, and again, this throws off the orientation, but it gets everybody relative to themselves. Assume the couples are facing out. Assume everybody's facing out and bend the line. You're facing out and bend the line. That's a couple circulate. I like that one. You want to look at it again? We'll see. Whoops. These guys are facing out. So if we did a couple circulate, 1 and 3 are going to be matched up over here with 2. They're going to end up facing out and 2 facing in. Let's go back. Okay, assume couples are facing out and bend the line. Once again, 1 or 3 are matched up with 2. Different way of looking at it. Flutter wheel.
And then for those who need to, they could just shift the 4 dancers from this way to this way.
It turns out, according to my notes here, and it'll be in the handout, it goes 90, it flips the square 90 degrees. If it's a right-hand two-face line, it goes clockwise. If it's a left-hand two-face line, it goes counterclockwise. But the actual movements are the same. Next page. The handout's only one sheet, but I've redone it here so it's big enough so I can read easily, and it turned out to be 8 pages. Ferris wheel is next. Head square through. Swing through, boys run. How did I do
We
that?
can't see the we can't see the whole
dance floor.
yeah.
Earthquake.
I did that especially to get feedback from you guys to make you're still awake. Make sure you're still awake. Okay. I did your typical head square through 4, swing through, boys run. I wanted two-face lines that I'm going to do a Ferris wheel from. My words, zoom without adjusting the trailing dancers and slide all forward. Slide all dancers toward the center, rather. So,
What's this call again? What one?
Ferris wheel, but it's got to start in the two-face line, and I forgot to get them there. Is that better? So, on a Ferris wheel, I'm basically, each of these groups is going to do a zoom, but I'm not going to adjust these guys to move up. I'm going to do that. Are we still on screen? No, let's try again. I'm going to move these guys behind them and these guys behind them and slide everybody to the center. Plus 180 degrees for people who are worried about home. Let's look at that again. That's where we were. Side couples facing out, head couples mixed pair facing in, move over to the center of the square. So a Ferris wheel, again, I think it's a little easier to dance this. You move your dolls, and it helps to see what's going on. Each side is going to do a zoom without moving these guys. And then slide everybody to the center. And if you care, turn it 180. We should teach a square of dancers to dance this way. See what happens. That's it for the mainstream group. Let's move on to plus. The first plus one I have is fan the top, but we talked about that. From a wave, turn a quarter. This is one, and if you had a left-handed wave, it would just be, obviously turning in the other direction, the direction that the...
No, I was going to say that's what the dancers would actually do. They do. Scatter.
This is one that might help to understand. I'm going to do a head square through, touch a quarter. On a follow your neighbor, instead of doing lots of moving here, strictly do a single hinge and U-turn back. Hinge and U-turn back. I don't think I hinged some of these right. Yeah, these guys... I don't think I did the hinge right, but let's look at that again. Three, 4, 2, check that they're on screen. Head square through, 4, touch a quarter, I'm just starting it from here because this is the typical place that we do it. And so for follow your neighbor, hinge, which is moving a quarter forward, and then you turn back. Forward, and you turn back. So basically these two stay together with each other, but slightly different despite going across the square and doing stuff. Even easier to use than that, not easier to use than that, but more frequently done. I'm going to do a head square through, touch a quarter. I'm about to do follow your neighbor and spread. Follow your neighbor and spread is basically cast off 3/4, or as we heard earlier, I was going to say learned earlier, but I'm not sure we learned it, but just cast back 1/4. That's a follow your neighbor and spread. Strictly, let's undo it. Follow your neighbor and spread. Uncast off 1/4. I mean, yeah, cast back 1/4. Easy to see where that takes you. And a singing call. Right there with the same person. Next page. All right. Normal waves with people here. Okay. Trade the wave. Let's see. Okay. Basically, a trade the wave is you take these. Are we seeing it? Yeah. Take these and exchange it with these, and then everybody do a U-turn back. Trade the wave. Take these two and put them on the other side, and everybody do a U-turn back. Not a biggie, but it's easier than doing this kind of thing. Again, these guys exchange places and do a U-turn back. Trade the wave. Again, we have corner box step to a wave. That's what it's called. So relay the deucey. It's a 0. It's a true 0. To do that, you sort of magically wave your hand over. Unless you're worried about orientation, and then it's 180. So that's a relay the deucey. Spin chain the gears is a technical 0. So if conditions are right, or in mental image lingo, all X's are canceled, then it works equivalently to a 0. But if you actually just want to move your dancers, whatever formation they're in, or whatever arrangement, I gotta read my own writing here. Two dancers on each side. Assume the two dancers on each side of each wave are facing the same way, and do a couple circulate. Oh, okay. Got it. Spin chain the gears. Just do a couple circulate. Whoops. Where was I? I didn't do it right.
Yeah, there was a. You might want to go back and reset that one.
That's where we were, right?
Okay.
Corner box step to a wave.
I think so.
So assume the centers are facing the other way and just do a couple circulate. That's a spin chain the gears. circulate them in the direction that the active guy is facing. And what did we say a shortcut for coupled circulate was? Does anybody remember? Basically unbend the line or bend the line. We should be back where we were, yeah. So let's go back. Parallel waves, spin chain the gears is basically centers U-turn back, couple circulate, and centers U-turn back again, but you don't have to do that double U-turn back. And the couples circulate before was just an assume all facing out and bend the line. So that's a spin chain the gears. Plus, of course, the orientation change. How many of you knew that? I didn't. Let's do it again, and it just takes us right back where we were. Next page. Spin chain and exchange the gears. This one's an easy one to dance for your dolls. These two ends were facing in. That's the spin chain and exchange the gears. Plus 180. Once again, spin chain and exchange the gears. Take the guys that are the ends that are facing in, doesn't have to be a guy. Exchange them, and that's it. Now tell me that's not a lot easier than moving the dolls. Let's go home. Head square through, slide through. Touch a quarter. I got a column I'm about to call coordinate. Here's my column. So here are my notes on this. It's probably better not to ask, but if you must, it's easier just to do a regular coordinate. But it is kind of interesting. If you assume right-hand column, the first column, the first dancer does a run around the other one without adjusting the other one, or right loop one. The two in the middle dancers counter rotate a quarter, or just as a group turn a quarter in their facing direction, extend twice, face right, and step ahead. And I'm guessing that's an equivalent, not a shortcut.
Yeah.
I don't think I did it right either. These guys aren't supposed to be half sashayed. Let's go look at that again. And as I say, it's probably better not to ask. But let's look at it again.
Can you pull the rug from the top right corner to the right and up a little? Oh, there you go. Hey, there you go.
Chris, I get these all set up last night, and when I put the iPhone back on the mop handle that's sticking out of the bookcase, and I stuck a marker in the end because I kept hitting my head on it, and that's sort of a red flag. Everything was lined up. When I put the iPhone back up there today, I had to readjust again.
couple number two wheel
Geez,
around.
Adam,
Yeah.
I
there
bet
you
you
go.
if these guys face painted better. Just checking to see that you're looking. Okay, head square through. Slide through. Actually, this time I'm going to do a right and left through first. That's because I follow it mentally better that way. Touch a quarter. Next time I'll wear transparent hands, right? So there's the column we're going to start it from. And swimming right-hand columns. Number 4, number 4 dancer. That's this one. Does a right loop 1. Run without it correcting the others. These guys counter rotate a quarter, extend twice, face right, and back up. That looks better. Aren't you glad we know about how to do that? This is one that's very easy. Maybe you guys know it. Let's do a head slide through and right and left through just to get us started here. No. Yeah. No. Did I have them wrong? This is where I wanted them. And did a head start. Basically, on a double pass through track 2. Does everybody know what that does? Does anybody want to? Stephen, tell me what it does. Because you shook your head.
Yeah, centers pass through and step to a wave.
Yeah, that's it. Centers pass through and step to a wave. Plus 180 if you care. It's an easy way to use track 2 as a module or mental image or what have you, without following all the stuff going on. We're getting there. This is an A1 call, which I used to use a lot just to keep track of what's going on. But A1, if you call heads past the ocean in chain reaction, it's the same as calling heads pair off and swing through. So I would dance through the chain reaction, but I don't remember how to do that. But the equivalent is heads pair off and swing through. Again, swing through, veer right and then turn back. So if you wanted to use it in a chain, and I think it does a 180 also. Does it? Chain reaction? Yeah. Pretty sure it does. But if you want to use it in a singing call, it's the equivalent to heads past the ocean chain reaction plus 180. Here's an interesting one for A2. It's motivate. Let's do a head square through. Oh, I guess at this level we can do a heads pair off. Step to a wave. On a motivate, still on screen? Yeah. On a motivate, these guys come back to the same place. These 4 do a diagonal box circulate. And that's a motivate. So doing it from here, these guys stay here. These do a diagonal box circulate. Pretty simple to see what's going on, or a lot easier to dance than to dance the dolls through. An aside on motivate, when I'm teaching it, I make sure that, I think it's this woman here, the woman facing out, or the center facing out, let's be APD here. has overflow built into the call. She has to go around once and a quarter. Once is borderline. She has to go around once and a quarter in that little spot there. I like to tell them that your instinct is to get out of that little tight circle sooner. Hang in there till the call's over. There's built-in overflow on it. But we won't dance that. And lastly, the pass and roll family. Get home. Boy, these guys have trouble scoring up. Now get back on the dance floor. So I'm going to do a head start through and pass through. Somehow I typically start pass and roll here, but it's not necessary. So pass and roll is strictly the center's right roll to a wave and extend. Do U-turn back and get to a wave and extend. Pass and roll, center's right roll to a wave and extend. And the last page. Square your set. Hit star through and pass through. Again, with dolls, it's easier to pass through that way. Pass and roll your neighbor. Everybody just quarter out, or quarter right. That's a pass and roll your neighbor. A lot easier than following all that mess. Let's undo that. Pass and roll your neighbor and spread. Basically touch a quarter. That's where it ends. Pass and roll your neighbor and spread, or touch a quarter. And last but not least, thank goodness. Oh my God, I'm running out of time. I should have ended a long time ago. Let's do it with just the head couples. Touch a quarter. On the call, box counter rotate a quarter, or typically if there's a box on each side, split counter rotate a quarter. Basically trade. Oh, wait a minute. No, I said that wrong. Never mind. Let's start over again. On the call, split transfer, which I always have troubles following in my head. It's basically split counter rotate, box counter rotate a quarter, and trade. Doesn't that excite all of you? So again, split transfer, box counter rotate a quarter, and trade. Easier for the dolls. List is done. Dance floor is wrapped up. Dirty desktop is shown. Keyboard back. Let's see. Stop sharing. Keyboard connected again. A bunch of doll shortcuts. Any comments, any questions, anything new and exciting you saw? Anybody didn't care in the first place?
But the amazing thing to me is that you showed me these, I think it was probably 1983, and I don't use dolls. I do it by writing.
Mm-hmm.
And as you were showing them again, I remembered you I remember them after all this time of not even using them.
Well, that's better than I did. I had to do a lot of reviewing last night.
I didn't remember them on my own, but I mean, as you're explaining them, like, oh yeah, I remember he showed me that one. Oh yeah, yeah, they're really good.
But some of them I really like. Swing through, just veer right and ends turn back. Motivate, it's easy to see the just diagonal circulate. Was it spin chain and exchange the gears? It's just the ends you turn, the ends exchange places. Couples circulate, make believe they're facing out and bend the line. Joe,
Yeah, I have a
comment?
question. Years ago, Willard Orlick had two booklets. One was on checker sheets, and the other was on equivalence and what they equal. Like, swing through, spin the top, right and left through equals a slide through or a star through.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Does anybody have copies of those?
Wow, I don't.
I used to, but I don't know what happened to him. And I'd love to have it back because his was a very extensive list.
Nobody's got them.
No, might make them up. I did. I made lists like that, and also another thing that you might think about, off sort of the same vein, is abbreviations for when you're writing. Like I've got a whole abbreviation list for pretty much every call that I can write it as fast as you're calling it, because that's how I kind of learned when I first started. But that'd be an interesting one too, to see who has what, because some of mine are not as good as someone else's.
I had a lot. I had a lot that were good, Joe, and then when it came to keyboarding,
Yeah,
it was hard because square through was a square and circulate was an 8-ball. A circle with an 8.
Oh, mine's just an 8. Yeah.
Okay.
But Dan ought to be able to tell us how to make macros for those.
I still use all those kind of little symbols when I write, because you can get squares and 8-balls and all those things in fonts that are pretty standard if you just know how to magic keystroke to get them in there.
There's a woman.
So I use all those hieroglyphics now still.
There's a woman in woman caller in Indiana, I think, who used to join some of these, that was very strongly in favor of us standardizing abbreviations. I don't think it's worth doing because everybody's set in their own ways, but it's an interesting thought.
Yeah, but if you can pick up something from somebody else, like for me, a swing through is a swing. It's just like a squared off, it looks like a swing, and then a spin the top is a bigger call than swing through. So spin the top is a swing through with a top on one side.
Oh, you're short.
Some of the thing is that different people, and I'll say this from my personal experience these days, is sort of the extreme end of this, but just even normal everybody will have a different. There'll be different people will be better at seeing different kinds of symbols and differentiating them from each other quickly. And of course, quickly is what exactly the only thing we're talking about, is being able to see these things, identify them quickly. And so, I mean, that's one reason why one reason why you'll never get everybody to agree on the same symbols is because, if somebody looks at an O with a vertical line through it, and somebody else looks at an O with a horizontal line through it, or maybe a diagonal line would be a better example. Some people won't be able to distinguish those reliably on the fly just when they're looking at them. So,
no, but if you utilize something for yourself, it becomes part of your usage. I did it. One of the reasons was because I created a program for deaf people to dance, and using 4 projectors projecting symbols on each one of the 4 walls, they could dance. They can feel the beat, with the boom beat, and so they could see it whatever wall they're looking at. If it says square through if it's a box with a 4 in it, they know square through 4.
Yeah, that's way cool.
So So I'm interested if anybody has stuff like that, because some of mine, I have to write the dumb words out, and I don't like to do that.
For me, for example, though, I can't do square, just a square and a 4, because what if it's, a square chain through to a wave, right? So for me, the square means square, and I have another symbol for through, and then and so I have to spell it out more explicitly, just because to differentiate it. That's the other thing I was going to say is different callers will want different abbreviations depending on what level they're calling.
Yeah.
Or of all the levels they call, because they need to differentiate those too.
Sorry for derailing the original premise here, Don.
Derailing it further on a parallel thing, Joe. In using terminations, I've added an awful lot of abbreviations of my own to the ones they have. For instance, square through 4, they have SQ4, I guess. And I don't type well enough to do that. So I've added square through 4 is just SSSS. Square through 3 is 3 S's. Square through 2, half square through is 2 S's. And I've added a lot of abbreviations like that, so it makes things go much more quickly for me.
I had something I wanted to say about or for hopefully new callers, of which there's very few in this conference as usual. I have all these super experienced people.
We're new once removed or twice removed.
Still learning.
Oh yeah, well, I mean everybody's always learning, but but for new people in particular, we're always, I don't know, I'm always on a high horse saying, oh, don't use terminations, you need to use checkers, or the physical thing, your brain, whatever, that stuff. But there's another aspect to it too, which is that a lot of these shortcuts involve equivalence, which is another thing you can be kind of learning at the same time here, or discovering. And just in the, if you're going to be site calling later on, just having a sense of, or an exact knowledge of what the calls do. This one takes the two end people and flips them, those kind of things, or even just the simple things about the swing through keeps the same people together, and like the tops do. Those kind of bits of understanding of knowledge are crucial for for very basic site calling. So this is, sometimes these checker cheats and the things that you learn along with them are a lot more than just handy shortcuts.
I was hoping that would be the case, or at least entertaining that some of the things like couple circulated, just unbend the line or bend the line. Some of you going backwards. Anyway, any other thoughts, comments, corrections? Why did you waste our time, Bill?
Well, all I was going to say, John, what you're doing today is I find it refreshing, and like Chris just said, it's the level of the calling level of the people in this conference right now are, but the thing is, the dolls. I started. That's how I did it back in '81 when I first started calling. I had my little dolly board, and I went crazy with this there. But your dolls can sometimes do things that terminations or any callorama, you try to do it in some of them, and you're going to fry the computer circuit boards. Whereas the dolls, they just about do anything you want them to do.
And sometimes things you don't want them to do.
Very true.
My homework is I'm trying to figure out how to actually call the checker cheat motion for Ferris wheel. I want to see him do that on the floor.
That would, oh my God. I'm just trying to picture teaching a set of dancers to dance the shortcuts and put them in the back of the hall and drive a caller crazy.
I frequently use the uncalls, for things. I say unbend the line. They look at me like, what?
I have thought before seeing your things that it would be fun to dance the shortcuts. So yeah, now I'm even more interested in kind of this whole how would we do that thing.
I mean, dancers think they're cool when they dance the square through shortcut, just pair off.
Right.
And it drives the callers crazy because it throws off the timing and they're not really dancing, but at least they're having fun thinking. But
Well, I'm flashing on a couple of years ago at an IAG STC convention. We had in the back of a room that had 7 or 8 squares. We were off in a dark corner and we were dancing mirrored or reversed. And the caller looked up and said, "What are you doing back there?" And that he managed to see us in the back and notice what we were doing was really impressive. Joe, you're muted if you
Sorry about that. Yeah, I did a paper once on defensive offensive calling for people that do those shortcuts. When you say head square through and they pair off, and then you say on the third hand. I called for a group once in the Carolinas at C1, and they did tape dancing all the time. So they would skip the right and left grands, and they would just square up wherever they were at the moment, and continue on doing whatever. So I got them on the right and left grand, but on the third hand, blah blah blah. So they would start their right and left grand, look up at me like and or nothing, and then as far as squaring up at home, I'd say keep promenading.
Keep going, don't slow down. Yeah.
So just a little bit, just for the fun of it, but
show them who's boss, Joe.
Something.
Any other? It's the hour is up. I should do the formal closing. Thank you guys for humoring me by sticking around for this. Thanks. And hopefully it got you thinking some and maybe showed you a couple of interesting things. I did see people thinking, which I really enjoy. As I suspected, I didn't think there was going to be much conversation. I'm not sure how I was instilling stuff, but if any of you want to see some of these again or want to say some more or discuss. So I'm not disgusted that there's no discussion.
I would definitely like to make sure that we associate your document with these.
Associate what? Was it, Dan?
Your document with this video so that people can have the resources to go back and see it verbally.
Actually, I think I'll give you 2 documents. One is the original, everything on one page, and then the other is the one that I was using now, which is larger font so I can see it, and taking up 8 pages and leaving out some of the unnecessary comments. But I'll send them both to you, and you can decide whether you want to put up the second one or the 8-page one or not. It doesn't cost any more. It might be more confusing.
Yeah.
Simon.
Yeah, can somebody remind me that there's 2 document names by Willard Orlick? I'll go hunting through archives and things. It was what?
You're looking for what Joe was looking for? Trying to find?
I will go and do some hunting.
You might have it in the library there.
Remind me what it was Willard Orlick. What the 2 documents were called?
Joe, what was the what were those 2 booklets called?
Yeah, it was, the guy's name was Willard Orlick.
That I'm familiar with, but
okay.
And the documents were?
And the one document I remember mostly was the one on zeros and equivalents. I'm not sure about one on checker sheets or not. I think Vic Cedar has a page of those.
He was not a caller,
No,
but he was a fine choreographer. I have if I could find it for sure, his booklet on gimmicks.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, that was a nice one.
that was good. Yeah.
We've got a number of copies of that, I think, in the Chorus Club library. Yep.
Zeros and equivalents one, very good.
Simon, where is that library kept physically?
It's mostly here. It's sort of dispersed and merged in, as it were. But
We live in a warehouse.
yeah, it's not totally ideal. But no, but I'm accumulating quite a lot of stuff in PDF format. I've got quite large acres of disk space, so I've downloaded the Sets in Order and the American Square Dance complete collections and various other things I found. University of New Hampshire seems to have quite a good archive.
Yeah.
Their places. Also tripped over the correspondence from Bob Osgood with somebody else involved with it over the Royal Tour of Canada. There was a lot of correspondence about precise setup. This was Princess Elizabeth before she became Queen, when she did the tour, and sparked off to fairly major extent square dancing in this country. Suddenly it became popular. You know, it was the thing to be seen done, and there was an explosion. But there was, I need to go back to them. There's a square dance history site, I think, where they're accumulating all sorts of things, and it was fairly close to the front page of that. But,
Is your material available for any of us?
if people are interested, I can make stuff. I can make soft copy available. I've got a Google Drive which could be shared for things.
That'd be great.
And I am happy to provide web server space for things that want a wider, easier distribution than Google Drive. So yeah,
yes.
if there are things that you're okay with having the wide world, I will happily put them on alamandleft.com.
Right.
Cool.
Okay.
That'd be nice.
Just email me, and if you can't find my email, it is DANLYKE @Flutterby, which is like butterfly but spoonerized.com.
Stuff that's on a Google Drive, you can you can just you don't have to have any special Google thing to get to it. From if you publish it, and it's just a URL.
Okay.
It just goes to a web page like everything else.
Whatever you want. Yeah. Yeah. Keeping within the 15 gigabytes of storage space, and after which it becomes expensive.
Right. Hey, whatever happened, Don, to the New England Square Dance Foundation Museum that got moved around a lot of times?
If you look for, go to the URL, New England Square Dance Foundation of New England,
SDFNLO.
Yeah, .org. They have a lot of stuff there. It's still there. However, I understand they're planning to pass it on to someplace. It just struck me what would be really handy for somebody to do is to create a list of all these wonderful references and just post that links to all these references to Simon's stuff if he puts it up, the Callers Club of United Kingdom or whatever it's called.
We do. There is a page. Is a page of links. I'm not sure offhand. I'm not sure. It may be in the members only section.
The Square Dance Foundation of New England, the History Project. Is that what it's called? .org.
We should compile all the really good ones we can think of, and then get them on for one place, Vic Cedar's site. I'm sure he put up a page or two about this. and everybody else too. But I'm just saying he's got a big,
We should look at Dick's under his resources, make sure that resource, a list of a list of resources you can drill down into, because I know I've told a bunch of people, you're looking for this, you're looking for that. I'm working on creating a playlist that has all of our sessions here. I wish I'd thought of it at the beginning so I could put them in while we're doing it, but going back and bringing up each video. Some of them were, some of our sessions were okay, and some were really good. And when and then there's the other one, Stephen. But sometimes I'll, somebody say, well, what about this? And I'll say, well, here's a URL. Go back and look at the video that we talked about.
There are so many fantastic places to look at. You can spend all of your time on the computer watching these. I'm doing a clinic for the Alberta Convention for callers, and I have a list of, I have yours done for people to look at. Mel Wilkerson's YouTube things, Caller Lab resources, knowledge base, fantastic list of stuff. Especially for newer callers. But I find there's so much stuff that I've missed over the years that I'm constantly going on this thing and watching videos and listening to different things. Even the Caller Lab videos, good grief, you could spend forever, and they're all good as far as I'm concerned. Some are good examples of a bad example, but that's okay.
Just a quick plug for my stuff, but Joe, some of the presentations that I have done here, because I couldn't find anybody else to fill that week, I've taken the presentation part without the discussion, edited it down so there's a header and then, this is what's coming, this is the date, and thanks for coming at the end. Not a total YouTuber. I didn't say, what's up, guys? And that's what you're supposed to start a YouTube with. And they're listed publicly on a Don Beck channel, and there's probably half a dozen there right now. And I like to think some of those are a good resource. In fact, I think I sent you the connection to the one on Tempo when we were talking. And this one will go up without all the extra discussion. I should edit a lot out of it. Any other sage comments?
Lastly,
I think maybe you've managed to inform us without, inform us so deeply that we don't have anywhere to go with it.
The only discussion I could think of that might come out of this, if some other people had some cool shortcuts that they used, but I didn't tell anybody to plan on that. And I thought I covered everything you needed.
Did you cover 8-chain through formations?
No.
Like an 8-chain 1, of course, is a pass through.
Yeah.
Same as an 8-chain 5 is a pass through. 8-chain 2 and 6 are pass through trade buys.
8-chain 2 and
6.
And 6, right?
Yeah.
8-chain 4 and 8-chain 4 and 8-chain through or nothing. What was that last one, Simon?
I was saying the 8-chain 4 is a difficult one.
Yeah.
I like the one that Tim Crawford said about that one, though. He says, he's calling away and he says, I want you to do 2 8-chain 4s, but do the second one first.
8-chain 6 is a coffee break.
Yeah.
8-chain 36.
36,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The coffee break.
Yeah, when the dancers tick you off.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry I was late, Don. I was on another project and it was very important. It had to do with square dancing.
Oh.
Not any more important than yours. Well, maybe a little bit. We'll talk about it later.
Ooh. You can always go back and watch the video. or you probably know how to move these things in your head anyway. So
The dolls, about the only time I really touch dolls, which I actually have my dolls, which I move around the board. About the only time I ever use them is when I want to work something backwards.
Mm-hmm.
For a singing call figure, possibly, or probably that. Other than that, yeah, I think I've progressed well beyond moving checkers. The modules I've already got in my head, and that's enough for an old man like me.
You know, I was thinking about it last night, Daryl, but I didn't show it. But knowing what a spin chain and exchange the gears, or knowing what one of these things does, you can set your dolls up to be in a grand right and left position, undo the spin chain and exchange the gears, so you can easily dance to it, so that you can dance a spin chain and exchange the gears to a right and left grand. I mean, ways to use that.
Yeah, well, that would be typical of something that I might use a doll for, but other than that, no. It's not just for moving the dancer's choreography. And I think probably that applies to most of the faces that I see.
You might get a kick out of this, Daryl, but because you're a Jay King reader and follower, and Jay was very strong about saying, diagram everything, write down all the diagrams, go step by step, so that you can go back and see what you did. And I went up to it. This is the part you might get a kick out. I went up to Jay one day and I said, do you really expect people to write every single diagram of every single thing? And he said, no, but this way, if they say, I don't get it, that you can say, well, did you follow the diagrams? No, we'll go back and do it again.
When I was back before we had computers, and and when I was learning to call, I didn't like the dolls because I'm fumble fingers too much, and I always did the diagramming. So I wrote out, and this went all up through high levels and challenge and stuff for years and years and years, because that was all written. But I actually did the diagramming, where you actually draw the little guys on a piece of paper, whatever. And the two benefits of that I see are, one, unlike doing the checker cheats, it forces you to, in your head, and sometimes with intermediate diagrams, if it's a complicated enough call to you, to work through the flow, as you're drawing it, or as you're envisioning the ending position for the next the terminal diagram. And so I think it gives you a better sense of the flow. And then, but the big thing, and the reason why I love it, is because it gives you an audit trail. Because if you're sitting here and making the diagram, every single call, but especially if it's complicated stuff, even if it's simple, somewhere along the way, you're going to screw something up sometimes. But you'll probably detect it before the end of the thing. And it'll probably be because somebody's asymmetric, or something like that. And so then you can go back to the diagrams and go, okay, they were screwed up here, they're screwed up, still screwed up, oh, here's where they got screwed up, they were okay before that. And then you can pick your sequence up, because you're writing the calls down, right? Then you can pick your sequence up from there without having to just say, oh golly, I don't know, my dolls made a mistake, I got to start over. Because if it's 12 or 16 calls and they're really hard, to go redo them all with the dolls is like so much pain.
That having a trail of where you've been, how did number 3 couple only get half sashayed? You can go back and figure that out, and that is handy if you're going to do all that.
Yeah, I started pushing. I went out to the wood shop and made myself, I think, 5 complete sets of checkers, so that I could be, when I'm pushing checkers, I can have a 1 or 2 back, so that when I inevitably muck it up, I know where I was.
Oh, so you run like 3 sets, you move this guy, and then you move the next set of checkers, then you move the next set of
Exactly.
checkers, then you start.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
He likes to call to more than one square.
That's right. The what else was I going to say about the drawing thing? Oh, right. Well, the other thing is that when I write a sequence like that, and I mean, it could take me a long time to write a sequence that's only, you know, I don't know, 15, 20 calls, whatever. Challenge the sequences are longer sometimes. But in any event, I mean, that could take, if it's something really, some stellar choreography, that might take me an hour to write a sequence. Okay. That, you know, and I'm going to call it, it's going to be a, you know, a minute long when I call it or something, but it took me an hour to write. But to double check them, now the audit trail, I can, in addition to using the audit trail as a mistake, if I want to go back and double check the sequence, because what I do is when I say what I do, what I did a long time ago when I was on paper, is I would diagram the thing out, and meanwhile I'm writing it down on an index card, and then when I'm done, then I take it back and I call the index card and I look at the diagram and I double check the whole thing to see if it looks like, in retrospect, I actually moved, even though there were no warning flags to tell me I screwed it up. I go back and run it through again, but I don't re-diagram the whole thing over again. I just look at the diagrams that I drew and see if they look like they're really correct. So that it's also a good way to be able to double check the material.
Definitely, when I was writing the note service, everything got checked because I didn't want to have. I wanted my dolls to tell me there was a problem, not 1,400 callers let me know, hey, this didn't work.
I used to have a little symbology on the cards, where of course it had the date that I wrote the card, and on the back of the card I'm going to write something about where I used it, because normally I wouldn't ever reuse a card, even if it took an hour to write that sequence. I'm not going to call it twice in my life because people are taping the dances. So but I had a little symbology on the front, you know, the date and the level and that kind of thing. And then I would have little check marks, and one check mark meant that I had checked the card. 2 check marks, I checked it twice, and then I would draw a little line through them, meaning I'd actually called it at a dance and it worked. So that's,
I can't remember who said, you reminded me of the story, Chris, where some guy was challenge caller traveling across country and started using the same material, but the tapes had preceded him and people were dancing the same material and
yeah, because people are gonna want to do your tapes because they want to go, oh, he's coming, we got to get ready.
Yeah.
So then you get there, you better not be calling the same shit.
I guess somebody learned that the hard way, but
Yeah, well,
and that was before the internet.
Yeah, when you're traveling like that, you can't afford to do overs like that. But when you're calling enough levels, especially at the challenge level, like say C1 through C3B, you know, I don't have time to be as detailed as Chris is. I just crank out the material like crazy so that I have stuff to use. But I don't use I tried using index cards, but I didn't really know what was on each index card because they all look the same. So I used to use the backsides of old flyers, and of course they come in different colors. So I can even go through some of my old stuff, and I've got piles of that. And I can look at that pile and I can see a piece of blue paper. I know what's on there, just because I wrote it at a particular time, and maybe I've used it over the years a number of times. But you know, this detailing everything. Vic Cedar program, I think, has a thing that will, whatever you've written, it'll show the graphics for all of those calls. And I know I was dancing in Texas to Daryl Lipscomb, and I think he used that program. He was very good at writing the stuff, and it was some C3 stuff, and he could tell you at any one point where everybody should be, which was really a great help. Great help for him to keep the people moving, and a great help for us dancers to be able to see, you know, you're offset here, you're this, you're that. So I haven't looked at Vic Cita's program to do that because it's another learning curve. And like Daryl, also guys, we don't have, we have other things to do.
I use old material, that is to say, material that's been called once. I use it for workshops.
Yeah.
Because there's an endless, hopefully endless workshops coming up and over the years.
Well, I think we have hit that natural pause in the conversation. I'm going to go bottle a bunch of Pindo Palm fruit wine and distribute that to my neighbors along with a party invite and get on with my day.
I'm glad we've trained you to listen for that silence. I heard it too and didn't want to interrupt it.
That's how I know when it's time to start the tip after the break. I learned that from what's that guy's name? Beck something? Yeah.
And I learned it from Ed Ross Smith, who has since passed away, but
Cool.
On timing a break, it works well. Anyway,
Thank you, Don.
guys. Take care. We will see you next week.
Awesome.
Thanks, Don.
And no, we'll catch you next week. Cool.
Sounds good. Bye.
Thanks, Don.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.